Okay, this is the last part for May the 27th. The first part for this did say May the 25th, but I didn't know we were going to be out for Memorial Day. So part 1 says the 25th, part 2 and 3 say the 27th. Okay, so this time I want to cover, we're going to prepare to write a email or letter of complaint. Okay, and then we're also going to I'm going to introduce the 3 parts of a letter. Okay, so those are the 2 things that I want to touch on during part 3. So, okay, so an email or letter of complaint. Let's look on page 116. Go back to in your student book to page 116, and we see Stella has some complaints that's going on in her apartment building. She had, let's see, the broken windows, no lights in the 3rd floor hallway. The 2nd floor has a leaking ceiling, and the 1st floor has smelly garbage. Okay, that's a notice to talk to the other tenants. That's not the letter of complaint. So now that she has talked with the other tenants, she probably needs to think about writing a letter of complaint, right? So let's go back to page 110 at the very beginning of the chapter. It's the very first page of the chapter. So if Stella was going to write a letter of complaint just about her apartment, what problems did she have in her apartment? Not in her building, in her apartment. And we see those things on the page. We see remember, the dishwasher was leaking. The dishwasher was leaking. The light bulb was burned out. The light bulb was burned out. The lock was broken. The dryer. What was wrong with the dryer? I don't know. I guess the dryer was broken. No, the dryer's fine. But the garbage, they're taking out the garbage, but the sink is fine. But the washing machine also had a leak. So there's a problem with the washing machine. There's a problem with the dishwasher. And there's a problem with the light being burned out. So, okay. So, let's see. So, but in the building, there were the other problems. But those are just the ones for her apartment. So, look on page 118. That's where we're going to start today. So, okay, we're on page 118. Okay, so let's go over the questions at the top. Did you ever have a problem at your apartment? Did you ever have a problem in your apartment? If you don't have an apartment, if you live in a house, you can substitute for that. So, did you ever have a problem in your house? Did you? It could be one of the leaking refrigerator, leaking dishwasher, a dripping faucet, Sometimes the toilet will keep running and using water. Air conditioners can go out. Hot water heaters can quit working and heating water. Like, have you ever had like a big problem where you had to call for assistance? And then it's going to say, what was the problem? Well, the answer for that is going to be different for everybody, right? Because what's broken in one person's house is not usually going to be the same thing that's broken in someone else's house. Okay? Did you tell the landlord about the problem? Did you tell the landlord about the problem? Well, if you rent, you may have told the landlord, but if you own it, then you're going to have to take care of the problem or hire someone to take care of the problem, right? In landlord, sometimes we don't tell the landlord. Sometimes they will want you to tell the property manager and, to help with the problem. And did you write a letter or email to the landlord? Did you write a letter or email to the landlord? I mean, maybe an email, probably not a letter, usually a phone call, because I'm sure that if you live in an apartment, they gave you a number to reach, especially for emergencies. But those are, and what's another word for landlord? What's another word for landlord? It might be property manager. There's going to be the person who sometimes there's going to be the person who owns the building, and then the person who runs the building, the person who will come and take care of things when they're broken, who will collect your rent, you know, and those might even be different people. They might have people who manage the properties, and they might even have people on maintenance to come and fix things. It just depends on how big the apartment complex is and how many tenants are renting, probably. Okay, so if we were going to write an email or a letter about a complaint, there's usually 3 parts that we want to make sure and include. Okay? So this is where we're going to introduce 3 parts of a letter. So we're going to talk about that right now. 3 parts of a letter or email. Sorry, guys. Gosh, my hands are everywhere. Okay. We want to include the name of the person we're writing it to. Okay, so you want to include the name of the manager or the landlord in that. You want to include their name. And then on the subject line, we want to include that. That's on an email. Like we want to, and because the subject line will get their attention and let them know if you have an emergency. So you can even write that on the subject line, right? And then we're going to do the message. The actual part, the big body part of the email or message. Okay? So let's look on page 118. I'm going to, if you need to, you can copy this down, but I'm going to stop the video and clear my screen, and then we're going to pick up with part B, I'm sorry. Okay, so we're looking at part B, and we see this is, it says read the letter of complaint. So we see the 3 parts. We see to, and we see Derek Betcher. Okay, the subject, apartment problems, and then the message. That's what we want Derek Betcher to know. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read this email, and then we're going to answer some questions. To Derek Betcher, subject, apartment problems, from Stella Taylor. And then the message is, I am a tenant at 3914 5th Street. I am writing to you about many problems in the apartment building. My neighbors and I made a list of problems in our apartments. The list of problems is in the attachment. Many things are broken, leaking, clogged, or jammed, and we are very upset. Could you please send a repair person to fix these things immediately? You can contact me at 713-555-1944. If you have any additional questions, you can also come and talk to me. I live in apartment 4B. Thank you for your attention to these apartment problems. Okay, so part C is got 5 questions that's about the email. So number 1 says, what was the subject of the email? So if we go up here where it says subject line, we see apartment problems, and that's your answer. So go ahead and stop the video, do 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we can check them together. Okay, so you should have stopped the video and completed C, and now let's do check them together. We're going to start with number 2 because 1 is done for you. Who is the email to? Complete sentences, please. The email is to Derek Betcher. Number 3, what is Stella's title? Stella's title is, okay, so you're going to find the title under their name. So we see Stella Taylor, and then she's going to be chairperson of the Tenants Committee. Okay. Anytime someone has a title, it's probably either going to appear under their name or out beside of their name, okay? And number 4, what is the email attachment? The email attachment is a list of problems in the apartment building. Okay. Last one in the email, what is the word that means quickly? In the email, the word immediately means quickly or fast. They want him to address these issues fast. They want them to be fixed soon. Okay. So that's all for page 118. If you want to go ahead and get out your workbooks, we're going to be working on page 110 of your workbook. Okay, we're on page 110. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read. Actually, these are the same vocabulary words that we've been doing. So if you want to review those, you can go back to a previous video and practice saying those. But we'll get some more practice with them down here. So who is the email from? Jim Bowen. Who is it to? Miss Torrent. What's the subject of the email? Once again, it's apartment problems. Okay, so go ahead and stop the video and fill out the paragraph, and then we can come back and check the answers together. So just do part 1. Okay, so you should have stopped the video, completed part 1, and now we need to check our answers together. So number 1 is done for you. It says there are broken windows. And many cracked ceilings, right? You need to paint the walls because they are stained. We can't open some windows because they are jammed. You need to replace many of the light bulbs in the halls because they are burned out. Some faucets in the sinks are dripping. So many doors are scratched. And some toilets are clogged. Okay, now that we have that vocabulary, I'm going to read the paragraph for you, and then you can stop the video and read it for yourself. And then when you do that, go ahead and answer the questions in part 2. But let me just read the whole email. Okay? Dear Mrs. Torrent, I am writing on behalf of myself and several other tenants in your apartment building. We are contacting you because we are upset about problems in the building. There are broken windows and many cracked ceilings. You need to paint the walls because they are stained. We can't open some windows because they are jammed. You need to replace many of the light bulbs in the halls because they are burned out. Some faucets in the sinks are dripping. And also, many doors are scratched and some toilets are clogged. Please reply to Jim Bowen in apartment 822. Thank you for your cooperation. Okay, and then we see is signed Jim Bowen, apartment 822, Sherman Patel, apartment 201, Randy Jones, apartment 412, and Brad Wilson, apartment 605. So that means they have when you have like a list of names like that, then they know that there's a bunch of people who are probably upset about all of the damage and the problems in the building. So I guess so Jim Bowen, Sherman Patel, Randy Jones, and Brad Wilson, they all rent apartments there, and they are sending this letter to Mrs. Torrent. She's either the owner or the property manager, and she would be in charge of sending someone to make those repairs. Okay, we're going to stop there, and we'll pick up with part 2 on our next video. Don't forget, I think I forgot to remind you in the last video to be sure you're putting your name in the comments section so that you're getting credit like you're attending class. And I hope everyone had a good Memorial Day weekend, and I will see you back here on Monday.